live on a sunny and warm Tuesday morning. Welcome on into the bullpen. I am your host, Adam the Bull, and this show, as always, is brought to you by Bet Rivers. If you're not using the Bet Rivers app, you are missing out, my friends. So get on it today, will you? Don't F around here. Download the Bet Rivers app. Go to the Bet Rivers website. Check out all the opportunities there, all the bets you can make, including, of course, you could already bet on the NFL. You could already bet on what's going to happen this season, futures bets. You could bet on the Browns to win the Super Bowl at plus 11,000, tied for the worst odds with the Saints, the Giants, and the Tennessee Titans. All of that, or win the division. The Browns, let's see, in the AFC North, we have at Bet Rivers, the Browns are plus 2,200. The Ravens are the favorite at minus 143. The Bengals at plus 215. The Steelers at plus 540. And the Browns at plus 2,200. It's not happy numbers right now, but that's because of the position that the Browns are in. But make all your bets. Baseball, basketball, tennis, boxing, UFC, MLS, cricket, whatever you want to bet on, we've got you covered at the Bet Rivers Sportsbook, again, at betrivers.com or on the Bet Rivers app. The Browns, week one of the season, of course, are a 5.5-point underdog at home against the Bengals. The over-under, as of today, long way to go. This may change, but it is 45.5. And when the Browns do take the field against the Bengals on September the 7th, 2025, that's less than 3 months away, the Cleveland Browns will not have Nick Chubb as the member of the roster for the first time in a long time. Nick Chubb instead will be member of the Houston Texans. The Texans, on opening day, they play in L.A. against the Rams. That's a 4:25 game while the Browns play at 1. So I'm sure a lot of you, like me, will put on that Texans-Rams game, assuming that Nick Chubb is healthy to start the season, to see, A, how bizarre it looks that he is in a Texans uniform. And I know for me personally, I will be rooting for him to have great success. I'm not a big root for a guy when he leaves my team guy. But in the case of Nick Chubb, I will be. I don't think Nick Chubb has a lot left in the tank. I'm not convinced he has nothing left, like some people think, because of last year. For most people, it takes 2 years to bounce back. I think I and many others, but certainly I'll lead the way, saying I had too much. My expectations and hope for Nick Chubb last season were way too high. I thought he would be the one guy since Adrian Peterson that would be able to come back and look completely himself after less than a year. That was unrealistic. Now, maybe he'll never look like the great running back that we saw here ever again. But can he get close to that? I wouldn't completely write it off. He's still somewhat young enough that I think it's possible now that it's 2 years later. He did get injured again last season, had the broken foot. He should be fully recovered from that. That's not an injury, unlike the knee injury, that takes multiple years to recover from. So it's just going to be strange. Nick Chubb officially signing with the Texans yesterday. It's a it's a 1-year deal worth $2.5 million guaranteed. He could make up to $5 million total. He will be the backup to Joe Mixon. So those guys who had many battles playing for the Bengals and Browns respectively will now be teammates on the Houston Texans. Nick Chubb has only played 10 games the last 2 years, and I don't know how you could do anything but not, wish the best for him going forward. I got a poll up on the chat. Will the Browns regret letting Nick Chubb walk? And yesterday when I saw the post officially saying that Nick Chubb would sign in Houston, I quote retweeted it, and I said the Browns suck. And it was, some people got mad at me. My man Cleve TA sent me a text. He's like, "Do you really believe this?" And here's what I feel about the situation. Do the Browns really suck for letting Nick Chubb walk? No. They don't have room for Nick Chubb on this team. I just felt like yelling at the Browns because even if you felt like it had to be, it just sucks that it's come down to this. And maybe when the offseason began, you could have found a way to keep him on the team and moved on from Jerome Ford. But, the reality is, the more I think about it and the more I hate to say it, there really isn't a room for Nick Chubb on this team. It was the right move for the Browns to move on from Nick Chubb. But I just felt like, fuck the Browns. I'm just pissed at them that I think it's more about what they did when he was here than the fact that they let him go, that they absolutely fucking wasted this great player. Running backs have such a short shelf life, as you folks know. And Nick Chubb's not going in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I guess, if he gets back to being a superstar and does it for another bunch of years, anything's possible. But as of now, Nick Chubb's not going to the Hall of Fame. And you think of Nick Chubb and his rookie year, he just fell shy of 1,000 yards because he only had 192 attempts. And then after that, 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He hit almost 1,500 yards in his first full season in 2019, where he was magnificent. His last healthy season, when they played 17 games in 2022, he had 15-25. He had 12 touchdowns. The first 5 years of his career, he was as good, if not better, than any back in the league for that 5-year stretch. Even last year, before he got hurt, the 28 carries, he still averaged over 6 yards a carry. Before last year, he had averaged, about 5 yards per carry. Well, more than that. Because he's including last year, he's averaged 5.1 yards per carry. So he was probably close to 5.5 yards per carry. Nick Chubb, in his first 5 years, had 48 touchdowns. And that's just rushing. He also had another four touchdowns receiving. So the guy was a magnificent player. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler. He was a second-team All-Pro in 2022. He's not a Hall of Famer. And for many people and many fans around the NFL, in 5 years, Nick Chubb will just be, as guys or sports fans, I shouldn't say just guys. I'm sure there's some diehard female sports fans that do this kind of stuff too. I'm sure if you're a diehard, if you're watching this, you probably are. You've probably had one of those moments with your buddies. I know I've done this many times, especially when I was younger, where you'd all be sitting around and then you just start naming, man, remember Sean Alexander, how good he was? Remember Jamal Lewis, how good he was? Remember Christian Okoye, how good he was? None of those guys are Hall of Famers. The list goes on and on. We can name a bunch of guys who were great backs. And for fans around the country, Nick Chubb's just going to be the next guy in that list in a few years. Remember Nick Chubb? Man, for 5 years, he helped my fantasy team, and he was awesome, and the Browns sucked, and, man, that guy was a sure thing for 5 years. And it goes away just like that. 2 years ago, the idea that Nick Chubb wouldn't be a Brown because he's not any good anymore wouldn't even have crossed your mind. He gets the knee injury, comes back, he struggles. He has a foot injury, and now you got to move on because he maybe can't play anymore. And that's just what happens. Football is a brutal game. It's a brutal sport. I've seen what it can do to guys physically, mentally, emotionally. I've spent most of the last 14 years working with Dustin. I've spent a lot of the last 3 years working with Tyvis and G. Bush. The sport will chew you up and spit you out. And for anybody to be as accomplished as Nick Chubb was in his first 5 years in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns is beyond impressive. playing Division I college football is an amazing accomplishment. Making the NFL, for all the crapping on players that I and others do, this guy's a scrub. It's an amazing accomplishment to make the NFL, to have a lengthy NFL career, incredible accomplishment. To be excellent in the NFL, incredible accomplishment. Nick Chubb is, one of the most unique players ever. For his 5-year stretch is an all-time stretch. Certainly in Browns history and modern running back history. And so, no, Nick Chubb will probably never go to the Hall of Fame. But for Browns fans, we saw this guy and what he meant to this team and what he gave for this team and the fans. He played hard on every play. He was all about team. Even when the team sucked and didn't deserve it, which was most of the time he was here, he was all about the team. There was none of that stuff with Nick Chubb. And I don't really, at this point, I don't care that guys do that stuff, but I love when guys don't. It was always about the next play. It was always about winning. It was always about the team for Nick Chubb. And the team failed. They failed to add talent. They failed to take advantage of his talent. And they won one playoff game and played in 3 playoff games the entire time he was here. And what a shame that is. So when I say the Browns suck, yeah, they don't suck for letting Nick Chubb sign with the Texans. In fact, the way the reports were yesterday, maybe Nick wanted to go. That the Browns apparently did, talk to him. And to that I say, hey, if I'm Nick Chubb, I don't blame him. I'd rather play for the Texans than the Browns. With the Texans, he could go to the playoffs. He could go to the Super Bowl, potentially. I'm not picking the Texans to go to the Super Bowl, but they have an excellent chance to make the playoffs, especially in the division they're in. And he's playing with a good quarterback. Browns don't have one. He's playing with really good wide receivers. Browns don't have much. He's playing with another good back. I like the Browns' backs. Just a good team. Team that's been in the playoffs for a few years. Team that's won a playoff game recently. And so I don't blame Nick Chubb for wanting to leave. I just think it's sad the way his career started. And you could say the same for Myles Garrett, who obviously is going to be here longer. You could say the same thing for Joel Bitonio. We've said the same things for Phil Dawson. We've said the same things for Joe Thomas. We've said the same things for Joe Hayden. They gave blood, sweat, tears to the team, to the town. And the team, not the town, the town didn't let him down. You folks didn't let him down. You folks brought it every week. You supported these guys. You loved these guys. You backed them. The team didn't. The team failed them. The owner failed them. The GMs failed them. The coaches failed them. And that's a shame. And so, yeah, okay. Is it wrong to say the Browns suck because of this move? Yeah, it's wrong. But do the Browns still suck? Yeah. And the more I think about this, I kind of moved on from this. This offseason, when initially Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry were not fired, I was like, okay, it is what it is. With more experience, maybe they get better. But I was just thinking about this because of the sadness of Nick Chubb signing with the Texans, even though we knew it was coming, or at least that he'd sign with someone. I was thinking more about Andrew Berry specifically, because at least with Kevin Stefanski, I could point to the reasons why you'd want to give him more of a chance. I can't do it with Andrew Berry. I don't understand. Andrew Berry has done an absolutely awful job. And the previous GM, John Dorsey, and John Dorsey had his flaws. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry is all about analytics. Ken Dorsey didn't want to hear about analytics. And I think there was a flaw in that on some level. However, he has a pretty good eye for talent. Now, did he get it right with Baker Mayfield? He didn't. He didn't. Is Baker Mayfield a bust? No. Baker Mayfield was okay here and is good in Tampa Bay. Should have drafted Lamar Jackson, should have drafted Josh Allen. They're both far better players. But his track record of drafting, his track record of transactions, the way the franchise was set up when Andrew Berry took over 5 years ago, the Browns were in great shape. They had some decent young talent, not enough, but they had decent young talent. They were on the upswing. They had a lot of draft picks. And what has Andrew Berry done with that? John Dorsey ultimately got fired because he hired Freddie Kitchens. It was a disastrous hire. Freddie Kitchens was completely unprepared to be the head coach. It was terrible. He came off horribly, and John Dorsey bit the bullet because of it. But if that was a fireable offense, and at the time, I don't think I disagreed necessarily with John Dorsey getting fired because I was down on Baker and the Freddie Kitchens things was a disaster. But looking back, and maybe Kevin Stefanski wouldn't be here, maybe the next coach, who knows what would have happened. It's all revisionist history. But what Andrew Berry's failures as the general manager of the Browns far, far, far outweigh what John Dorsey's failures were, and he's been given way longer. This was Andrew Berry's 6th draft. What has he done with the draft? What? He's done nothing. Obviously, the guys for this season, we got to wait and see. But if you look at the draft history, when we've done it before, it is ugly. Now you say, well, they didn't have a lot of high picks. Well, the reason they didn't have a lot of high picks is because they made the trade for Deshaun Watson. Now, we could all say we liked the trade. Most of us did. At the time, the trade made complete sense on paper. But they have more access to information. They have more access to guys that we don't. And whether I thought it was a good trade or not, which obviously I did at the time, I thought it was a no-brainer, the trade ended up being the worst trade in the history of football. You spent your first-round pick in 2020 on Jed Wills. He sucks. You spent your first-round pick in 2021 on Greg Newsome. He's average. You traded away first-round picks. You traded away second-round picks. You dropped down from the second round to the third round to get Elijah Moore, a barely signable free agent. You drafted in the second round Grant Delpit, decent player, Jordan Elliott, and Jacob Phillips, nothings. Anthony Schwartz, total waste. JOK, great player. He's hurt. I'll give him a thumbs up for JOK. That's the one guy. Martin Emerson, decent player. David Bell, nothing. Alex Wright, I like him. We'll see. Still unproven. Cedric Tillman, lot to prove. Siaki Ika, bust. Zach Zinter's been terrible so far. Michael Hall, talent, we'll see. That's your first, second, third round picks are for the most part a waste. Why do you think the Browns have very little young talent at this point? They have blown it time and time again. They've made bad trades. They've made bad free agent signings. What is it that Andrew Berry has done to earn this 6th year and have an opportunity in another draft to get this first-round pick? Now we'll see how he does. Everybody's excited about the Browns draft picks. We're always excited about draft picks. Let's see how they actually pan out on the field. And if they have a good draft class, and there's a lot of promise here, then okay, maybe Andrew Berry has finally learned, and with his full complement of high picks for the first time in 4 years, maybe he's on a new track and he will earn that job and prove Jimmy Haslam right, that he was right to keep him in the job. But I just don't see it. Now, there's no point in firing him now. But if the Browns draft class of 2025 doesn't make a significant impact, I would 100% fire Andrew Berry at the end of the year. Significant impact. And I'm not even talking about the quarterbacks. We've talked so much about Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. At that position, it's hard to look great right away. So I'll forget those guys. But their top 4 picks in this draft: Mason Graham at defensive tackle, Carson Schlesinger at linebacker, Quinshon Judkins at running back, and Harold Fannin at tight end. I think we're all pretty optimistic about those 4 guys. And all 4 of them should be starters. I mean, maybe Fannin is the second tight end technically, but even if he's a backup tight end technically, he's going to play a lot. I mean, he's the 67th pick in the draft. He should be playing a lot. And we know Kevin Stefanski likes to use 2 tight ends, and he's only got one other that's any good. Those 4 guys got to make a big impact on the season, even if it doesn't lead to a ton of wins because the Browns are not good enough. But by the end of the year, Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger, Quinshon Judkins, and Harold Fannin, we have to look at those 4 guys and say, boom, what a draft by Andrew Berry, 4 big hits. Especially Graham, because you traded away from the best player in the draft, you traded down, and took a defensive tackle at 5. Not a lot of defensive tackles get drafted that high. He better be an impact player. If he finishes the season with 1 sack and 5 pressures, it's going to be an issue. Carson Schlesinger, with JOK out, has a chance to make an impact right away. Quinshon Judkins, I think we'd all be shocked if he doesn't make an impact right away. Harold Fannin, maybe to a little lesser degree, but still. On paper, really talented guys. They were all in the top 67 picks of the draft. They got to make big impacts, all of them. And is it too much to ask that Cedric Tillman makes a big step forward as a 3rd-round pick, or Mike from 2023, or Michael Hall makes a big step forward, a 2nd-round pick from 2024? I did leave out DeJuan Jones, a nice 4th-round pick. Hopefully, hey, DeJuan Jones, kudos to him, man. He lost a ton of weight. He looks great. I'm really happy for him, and I hope he has a great season. He's one of the best draft picks Andrew Berry made, one of the few good ones. How about Alex Wright, 2022? It's time to stop having potential and start putting up. Start producing. Let's go. Andrew Berry has had 6 draft classes. Not one player he's drafted has double-digit career sacks. The most is JOK with 8, a linebacker. Then Alex Wright with 6. Jordan Elliott with 5. And Isaiah McGuire, 3.5. Tommy Togiai had 2.5 sacks. Who knew? I wasn't aware of that. From an NBA standpoint, Darius Garland had surgery on the foot. Everybody feels like Darius is now vindicated. I don't agree. Him playing was about pain tolerance. He was going to have that surgery either way. It doesn't change my mind on what the Cavs should do this offseason, but it certainly might affect their ability to trade him. As for the Guardians, if you missed the Ultimate Guardian show yesterday, a lot of frustration from both Zach Meisel and I about the team. They lose again to Cincinnati. The Guardians begin the day just 3 games over 500. Again, still very much in the mix, but not playing particularly well. They've lost 5 of 7, starting with the Yankee series. 7-4 the final yesterday. Luis Ortiz is not good. ERA drops to 4.26. Gave up 9 hits and a walk in 4 2/3, 4 earned runs, 2 homers. Gave up home runs to T.J. Friedel and Jake Fraley, not big-time power hitters there. The Guardians had a lead. They were up 3-2 after they fell behind 2-0, but it was pretty much all Reds after that. Bo Naylor hit his 9th home run. Meanwhile, you may have missed it, but Josh Naylor hit a walk-off grand slam for Arizona last night. I think the Diamondbacks were up 4-0. The Mariners scored 4 in the top of the 9th, And then Naylor hit a walk-off grand slam. And Bo Naylor's got 9 home runs, but that's all he does. He's got the 9 homers, which is, not bad. Puts him on pace for a little over 20. I mean, it's nice. He's got 19 RBIs. It's like he rips these solo home runs every other week or whatever. And that's about it. And the Guardians just not playing well. They're in third place. Game back of Minnesota. Half game up on Kansas City. 8 games out of first. They are not in the wild card. They're a game behind the Twins for the final wild card spot at the moment. We get a couple of comments from the YouTube chat. As Big Z says, I will always cheer for Nick Chubb. Bailey Bull, doesn't re-signing Bieber seem like a waste of money if we don't even make the playoffs? Seems like they should have built a stronger team if they were going to re-sign him. At the time, I didn't love the move. If they don't make the playoffs, sure, it was a waste. But at the time, I didn't love the move. I thought they were better off spending money elsewhere because I wasn't 100% sure when he'd be back. He just had a setback. We'll see. If he comes out and pitches great in August and September and they do get to the playoffs, it was worth it. Matt says, I will always root for Nick the person, just not for the Texans. Pains me to say it, but I think we're all hanging on to the 2022 version of Nick. He's never going to be that guy again. Probably not. Jim Eagle, Guardians offense. Quan, Jose, hope, and pray. Yeah, wasn't that Zach's line? Wasted time, Chiefin. Was there any consideration to call this show Bull only because the Browns are straight baloney? Andrew C. Brown should retire his number. He deserves the highest praises. They don't really retire numbers very often in the NFL. Nick Chubb will certainly be honored in the Ring of Honor, but it's hard to retire numbers in the NFL because there's not that many numbers and there's a lot of players. Poll results as of now, will the Browns regret letting Nick Chubb walk? 53% say yes, 47% say no. Matt said it would have been 100 times worse than Nick signed with the Steelers. Sure, no doubt. Cinematic Storm, I don't think the organization is going to regret it. I think it's going to be the fan base that's going to regret Nick Chubb being in a different uniform. The Alaskan dude, 3 teams to watch, Texans, Buccaneers, Bills. Oh. You got to watch Nick Chubb, Texans, Baker Mayfield for the Bucs, and for the Bills, I don't know why. Let's see. The Alaskan dude. It would be nice if Nick Chubb makes the AFC Championship against the Chiefs. Yeah, that would be cool. All right, thanks to everybody for joining me. Thanks to Sam for sending all the bull emojis. Dustin joins me on Thursday live at 9 a.m. I'll be on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show today. And I'll be back with Betting Weekly Hardball this afternoon, part of the Bet Rivers Network, at 2 p.m. with Doug Kazarian. Join me then. Until then, thanks to Z and Max. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See you, everybody.